So back a few years ago, I went to get a testosterone test with my friend Sam. And Sam was basically like my mentee. Like I was more like his mentor. We were friends. And also it was my company and he was like a video editor as well. With him being my mentee, we were expecting him to have way lower testosterone than me. And so we end up going to this clinic in Thailand that we were on holiday and we get our blood tests like next to each other. I'm talking to Sam and I'm like, you know what? Like, I'm not sure if testosterone is all that what it's cracked up to be. Because when I've had tests before this moment, like I've had like 3 or 4 tests, it's always been pretty low. Like it's always been like 440 nanograms per deciliter, 427, 485. And I was just thinking, like, you watch all these videos, oh yeah, testosterone makes you competitive, whatever, and makes you get muscle mass. But I have those things already. So maybe it's not testosterone that, causes a guy to be strong or whatever, but it's more of his just mindset and his habits. And that's when Sam replies and changes my mindset. And he says, think about it this way. You've achieved all this stuff with low testosterone. Now imagine if we made your testosterone higher, what more you'd achieve. It's kind of like a rewiring of my brain. And I was like, oh, what if like what I had achieved up until this point, like 500,000 subscribers, $20,000 a month, a pretty good physique. What if that was me living my life with like a handicap, with like the handbrake on? And what if with better levels of testosterone, I should have been double or triple? And so we get our test results back. My score is actually pretty high. I have 727 nanograms per deciliter, and my free testosterone is a little bit above the range that they've suggested on like the test. And Sam's was about 520. What I realized from that conversation with Sam was that even if you've got a pretty good life right now and you've got pretty good symptoms, higher testosterone is most likely going to help you as long as you utilize it well. So why do we want testosterone? You already know some of the basic reasons like muscle mass, strength, whatever. So I'm not going to go into those too much. I want to talk about reasons that I actually don't find people discussing, but probably are more important than those things. So just listen to what I just said. We're about to discover some benefits of testosterone that are more important than muscle mass and strength, things that that I value highly, right? One of the biggest ones that I think is that you are less likely to get bullied and you're more likely to stand tall amongst other people. We've talked before about the importance of body language. I think we mentioned it in the anxiety module. And I mentioned like the Jordan Peterson book where the first chapter is called Stand Up Tall with Your Shoulders Back. And the idea is that the way we position ourselves, and also which is dictated by our hormones like testosterone and serotonin, greatly influences how people treat us. Basically, if we have higher testosterone, we're more likely to walk into a place with the kind of aura, maybe it's body language, maybe it's eye contact, maybe it's the way we walk, whatever it is that gets us more respect and means that we're less likely to get bullied or made fun of. I've just recently started going to the kickboxing gym. And when you go to like a pro fighter gym and you go every single day, you realize like there's a bit of a culture there, similar to like in ways of like school and work, where there is like a bit of a pecking order. There is like a dominance hierarchy in the pro fighters. Not so much the people who are just, casuals. There probably still is anyway. But particularly with the pro fighters, you can really tell there's like a hierarchy of guys. And the last few days, I'm not going to lie, I felt so grateful for where I am in life, the fact that I know that I've got probably above average testosterone these days, because I've went in and not a single person has been like mean or disrespectful or anything like that. Like I've not had anything like that from any of these guys, which you might think, oh yeah, fair enough. But the thing is, some guys would have that. Some guys would join like the martial arts gym or the military or school or work. And within 2 months, start getting a little bit bullied. They'd have some guy who's like above them in the dominance hierarchy, start making fun of them, throwing a passive joke here and there. You've probably like remember times in high school where if you could remember the first day, let's say of high school, where some kid basically nipped at you kind of like a dog would to test if you're a bitch or not. And the way we reacted to it, where we didn't sometimes stand up for ourselves. That kid most likely had higher testosterone than us, and he was like establishing his place above us in the sort of hierarchy of people. Sounds autistic to say this stuff because no one really sits there talking about the dominance hierarchy, but this stuff is going on. Like this is real shit that's happening, and it's of vital importance that you understand this. And so with higher testosterone, we're more likely to get the sort of respect just by the way we carry ourselves. Maybe also by the fact that, we're more competitive, we're more risk-taking, we'll hold eye contact more, whatever it is. And also maybe the muscle mass and strength will help as well. But basically, if we increase our testosterone, we're less likely to get that bullied experience that we might have had in school where some other guy is basically like stood on your throat and has established himself as above you by putting you down. When I think about another benefit of testosterone, which is risk taking, I always picture the fast, adventurous boy on his bike and me stood there watching him. You know, you've heard that testosterone increases like risk taking, and we'll talk in a second about like the importance of that for business, for speaking to girls. But I always get sad because, like, you know, some kids would have been naturally just higher testosterone even before we hit puberty. It's probably likely that there would have been some kids who just naturally had like double the testosterone as some other boy. Before you hit puberty, your testosterone levels are very low, but some would be lower than others. This is why some boys, when they turn 12, 13, they end up like growing, getting a bit of facial hair. And other boys still look like little kids when they're like 16, 17 years old. And I always picture being like on our bikes, like our bicycles, in like the woods somewhere. And there was always like one or two adventurous, risk-taking, like thrill-seeking boys that, you know, you could just symbolize that they had higher testosterone. There'd be like a little mound of mud and they'll try and jump over it with their bike and everything. And someone like me, like I could not imagine even attempting that. And if I did, I would have just gotten injured and started crying and everything. Because I had like mommy's anxiety inside of me. Instead of having like daddy's testosterone, I had mommy's anxiety. So I was the kid who watched. Maybe you were as well. And it's just sad because it's like, bro, imagine all like the fun life experiences we've missed out on being that kind of kid. You know, there's guys who will go to the beach or something and jump off the rocks into the sea. And yeah, it might be dangerous, might be, you know, like, it might be risky, whatever. But like, that's like a fucking high testosterone, adventurous young man. Like our great grandparents who were fucking signing up to go to the war before they were even of age. And here we are, like, soft and offended and victims. Then when we talk about risk-taking in the space of business, careers, tough conversations with women, it's huge. You know, the amount of guys we get in and on a school who ask me the same question, which is, should they go to university? They don't want to, but their parents are basically forcing them. So they're like, okay, screw it. I'll just go do these 3 years just to make my parents happy. And it's complete fucking bullshit, right? That guy's got symptoms of low testosterone because if he was higher, he'd look to his parents and say, no, I don't think that's the right thing, so I'm not going to do it. Imagine how different your life would be if you just had a few hundred extra nanograms per deciliter testosterone and you were able to look to your parents and tell them, like, no, I'm not going to go to university just because you think it's right. The next 3 years of your life has just changed drastically. And how about the risk taking to go speak to the girl that, you know, makes eye contact with you as you walk past her? There's a version of you that gets kind of happy that you made eye contact with a girl and keeps on walking. And then there's a version of you where you're like, wait, that girl was hot, I'd want to fuck her. You turn around and you go walk up to her. Imagine missing these life experiences if we just don't have this hormone inside of us. There's a study I learned, which was so interesting. Women were given sweaty t-shirts. So t-shirts, like, you know, just like that was sweaty, like men had worked out in, asked to smell them and choose who they found the most attractive just by the smell of their sweat. And consistently, women would rate the sweat of the guy who had the highest testosterone. So they couldn't see him, they couldn't even hear about him. They could literally smell your level of testosterone and be more attracted to you. How fucking interesting is that? You know, you've heard, like, you've seen those videos on YouTube which are like, oh, women can smell the retention on you. Not so much. But they can literally smell the testosterone from your sweat and they'll be more sexually attracted to you because of that. The final one that I talk about, the benefits of testosterone, is recovering faster from injuries. When you've got low testosterone, you get injuries and sickness, and you kind of just like, bro, it takes like fucking weeks to recover from like a gym injury. But when you feel like you've got the higher symptoms, you're waking up every day with morning wood, even if you get a bit of a gym injury or like a cut, it's weird. Like I've had moments like around that time in Thailand where I felt like I had really high testosterone. I had above average at that point. And if I would get some kind of injury like I did in that time in Thailand when I got the test, the next day it would be like 80 or 90% gone. Whereas I know that I've had times with lower testosterone, like those times where I got it tested in the UK a few years ago and it was like 400. And when I would get like, a gym injury every like 6 months or something, just because I was like lifting like a retard with too much weight or something, I'd get an injury and I literally would be in pain for weeks. I couldn't do the same exercise. So when you do increase your testosterone, like we'll cover it today, if you do ever get injured or you get a cut or you get some kind of problem, testosterone will help you heal it faster. Kind of like Wolverine, if you've ever seen that like superhero movie, Wolverine, he gets a cut and it just kind of like heals back straight away. So now let's discuss why we don't have high testosterone like we're supposed to, because this is super interesting. So if you didn't know already, the statistics are that men's testosterone is dropping by more than 1% every single year. So we have half the testosterone as our dads when they were around 20 years old as well. So testosterone is dropping very sharply for men of all ages, but particularly our generation. And we're going to break down why. But another interesting point is that men's testosterone has dropped by more than 40% in the last like couple decades. What we're going to see, which I believe we're going to see, is not just a consistent 1% drop over the next year and 2 years and 5 years. It's going to start going 4%, 8%, 12%. We're going to see this compound because the things that we're going to cover, which are lowering testosterone, are things that compound exponentially and don't go away. So there's some brutal things we need to talk about. Perhaps one of the most insidious reasons why men's testosterone is dropping, why you've got low testosterone, is because of plastics. So plastics aren't inherently bad, but the majority of plastics have inside of them something called phthalates, and it's phthalates which are bad. So just to be safe, just assume plastics are bad because you won't know which plastic has phthalates or not. You can do some checks every now and then. You can like see on a bottle or something, but you're just safer off assuming that plastic is bad for you. The statistic that I used to hear was that we eat a credit card's worth of plastic every year. Now it's every week because plastic consumption has went up by like 50 times. Another thing that's causing this problem is estrogenics, like for example, the birth control that's in tap water. So a lot of girls, like we're talking hundreds of millions of women around the world, take a pill, which is the birth control pill, which basically stops their period and stops them from getting pregnant, which is huge when you think about the hormonal impact of that. When girls go to the toilet and they piss, that birth control is not filtered from the water that then we drink. So tap water has birth control in it. I believe that this is the rise of miscarriages. So that's when a woman is pregnant and then a baby dies inside of her. Your future wife gets pregnant. She keeps drinking tap water because you guys didn't know this. And she's drinking like diluted baby killer in a glass, basically, which is fucked. With you as a man, when you drink tap water, your hormones are getting all fucked up. Testosterone's going down, estrogen's going up, all this weird stuff happening. Then we also have fragrances. So literally deodorants, perfume, cologne, all of that decreases testosterone. We have pesticides that they spray over vegetables. We have fungus and mold that can be found in your house, or it can be in the food that some shit farmers will feed their cows or whatever. Then we also have EMFs and radiation. We have Wi-Fi and Bluetooth that has now been proven that it's not a conspiracy theory, that it actually fucks up your health, fucks up your testosterone. Even doctors like Dr. Andrew Huberman are now telling you to not put your phone in your pocket because it's unhealthy. I've been saying this for 1.5 years. People have thought that I was like some weird conspiracy theorist when I started talking about this last year. My own fucking fans, dickheads, who watched me for years, who said that I saved their lives. I saw comments and like videos about me saying like, oh yeah, he's went insane now because of these other things which I was saying. And it turns out that I was right all this time. Now the most well-known doctors like Huberman are coming up and saying, don't keep your phone in your pocket, don't drink tap water, don't drink from a plastic water bottle. So yeah, just be careful with this shit. I know it sounds like a crazy conspiracy theory right now, but it actually is true. Then we do have, with our diet, the weird ultra-processed modern food, which has got weird chemicals. Like a lot of food these days isn't actually fit for consumption, but it's still legal to sell it as food just for now. I believe in the next 10, 20 years, there'll be an uprising to stop like these bullshit companies from selling us food that's got like chemicals that are literally not safe for humans to eat. But as of right now, in a lot of countries, particularly in America, these things are legal. The only things we know for certain that are safe for humans to eat are the things that our ancestors ate a few hundred years ago, which is meat, eggs, fruit, vegetables, maybe like there's arguments even against vegetables being healthy now, which is very interesting, because if you are a brainwashed little boy with one testicle, you'd argue, wait, but all the doctors have told us that vegetables are healthy, so I'll trust them. Turns out not so much. Turns out a lot of vegetables are actually bad for you, bad for testosterone, bad for your health. Not just that they're sprayed with pesticides, but that they literally have like a weird defense mechanism inside of it that weakens you and kills you from the inside. It's fucked. It's weird as fuck to say this. There's gonna be like at least 100 guys who watch this who think I'm a fucking maniac. But these are all truthful facts that now are coming to light because of the increase of like freedom of speech and polarity on social media. Along with that, another reason why testosterone went down is because we generally are living like weaker, less human-like lifestyles. We get less sunlight, we're doing less physical work, we have no competition, we're often in environments by ourselves where there's no dominance hierarchy, like need to climb up the status. We're sheltered away from combat, from competitiveness, from struggle. And in the modern day, we have more of a psychological struggle than a physical one, which is unnatural for human beings and from animals. Like the stress of an animal should all be physical, that it's hungry, that there's a threat with the other animal nearby that we have to survive from. But the human stress is like a psychological one. Even in the movie Fight Club that came out like 20 years ago, he said like, we have no Great Depression. The Great Depression is our lives. There is no war. There is no threat of like an animal killing you these days. It's you killing yourself because of how unnatural we live. The final reason why I believe testosterone has dipped down is because of just psychology and subversion. Boys are raised to be weak, specifically raised to be weak. If your parents weren't smart enough or resourceful enough to put you through homeschooling with someone who was like based, which basically is like close enough to 100% of people didn't get homeschooled, let's say like 99%. You got psyoped by your female teachers who are fat and ugly, and you got psyoped by like the education system that told you that this is what success looks like, being able to sit down and fucking memorize the answer to an exam question. We were shown by Hollywood movies and TV shows that men are bumbling idiots and the wife is like, you know, the masculine, the disciplined. You get my point. Like I'm thinking of The Simpsons, where Homer, the father, is like this bumbling idiot and Marge is like this high performance woman. And you'll see so many movies and TV shows exactly like that. So we've been raised to have such a weird, false view of what a man is supposed to be like. And any guy who was a bit more higher testosterone, adventurous, he was just stomped out, pushed away, told he was disturbing the classroom. He ends up committing some like crimes which, you know, are associated with testosterone. He's put into prison, rehabilitation centers and stuff. And yeah, the modern day just makes it very hard to have high testosterone. But there are things we can do to increase our testosterone. And so here's some of the biggest ones. The number one that I can think of, which is a bit of an interesting one, past the basics, right? Like we can very quickly cover the basics, but I didn't want to waste your time with shit like sleep and exercise and those kinds of things, because you've heard that 100 times. I wanted to bring to you things you've maybe not really made that much progress in. Because if I just tell you, yeah, make sure you sleep enough, it's like, motherfucker, like you knew that shit, right? I can't be the only one who clicks on a video on testosterone and the motherfucker just says something like that where I'm like, yeah, bro, I knew this like 10 fucking years ago. Like, is there nothing else I can work on? So here's some few things that you can work on. Number one, avoid plastics. Like I said, not all plastics are actually bad for you, but most are. So to be safe, you may as well just get into the culture of like avoiding plastics. Mostly don't drink from plastic water bottles. That's one of the worst cases where you'll ingest microplastics. You don't see it. You don't really see plastics inside of like the food or the water bottle or anything, but you will ingest it when you drink from plastic water bottles. The reason why that's quite insidious is because if you're in the kind of environment where you would drink from a plastic water bottle, you most likely do it multiple times a day, right? Because if you're at home, you probably won't drink from, you know, plastic water bottles. You'll just drink from your tap, which we'll talk about in a second because that's not healthy either. So the alternative to that when you're out and about is to try and get the glass bottle if possible, or get some other kind of drink. So for example, I often get coconuts. Like I live in Bali. So for me, like getting coconuts is like a very healthy, natural way. And it hasn't been fucking poisoned with weird ingredients or anything. It hasn't touched plastics. It's a natural source of liquid. So right now, think about what plastics you specifically ingest. So if there's plastic water bottles, wage war against them. Now, there's a lot of drinks in plastic bottles, like a lot more than you realize. So I'm saying water bottles because I'm assuming you're like a capable guy and you're basically just drinking water. You're not drinking fucking like, some like energy drink in a plastic bottle or some shit like that. If you are, you got to cut that shit out and just go for more like glass bottles instead. It turns out, unfortunately, that cans are not very good for this as well. So a lot of basically anything these days is fucked, right? So for example, the aluminium can that you might get some kind of soft drink in, that has a plastic lining. If you ever get coffee from a coffee shop in one of those like takeaway cups from like Starbucks with a little plastic lid in the cup, right? I used to get that every now and then when I would be on like a road trip, and I would take the plastic top off the lid because it was plastic, and I'd think, oh, I'm not going to drink that. So I'd just drink with this wide open coffee cup. But actually, a lot of people told me even that has plastic lining, and I checked and it actually does, because the cup is almost like paperish, if you get what I mean. If you felt that kind of Starbucks cup, it's kind of like paperish. And inside is like a plastic lining. So that's got microplastics in as well. And it's probably worse. I haven't seen much data for it, but the excretion of some kind of plastic into a liquid is worse when it's warm, when it's hot. So coffee in one of those like to-go cups is probably one of the worst ways. And there's a lot of guys who will be having that every day. So the alternative is like make your own coffee, put it in like a ceramic mug. Or what you can do is you can have your own mug, like a metal one or whatever. And I'm pretty sure in most cafes, you can give it to them and ask them to fill it up in that. And again, look, you don't have to like tell people the truth if it sounds weird, talking about, oh, I want to make sure I don't get microplastics. You can just shrug your shoulders and be like, oh, it's for sustainability. Because people know that, right? Most retards of the world, if you tell them like, oh, it's just sustainability, it's like recycling or something, people just understand. If you ever say this to Starbucks or whatever, they'll understand, and you're allowed to like bring your own cup. Right? So just do that. If you drink a lot of coffee from like outdoors, take your own cup, give it to them, easy. And then you've just avoided like a great deal of microplastics. Now, if it's once in a while, you just happen to like, get a coffee somewhere and they give it to you in the paper cup, it's not the end of the world. It's not like you get the paper cup, you're like, oh, fuck it, I'm not going to drink it. You could do if you want, but it's not going to like kill you. It's not going to be like very bad if you do that. Just the same way that it's not going to change your life just going to the gym once. You have to do something a bunch of times to see an effect. So if it's once in a while, I think not being stressed is probably better than stressing about something that's rare. So for example, if you're in the airport and there's only plastic water bottles and you're thirsty, fucking just get one, right? Just get one. If you're 99% of the time doing the right thing, but on a rare instance, especially when you're kind of stuck and it's something as important as fucking hydration, shut the fuck up, stop getting so extreme and just fucking get the plastic water bottle. Because sometimes that's the case, bro. Sometimes I'll go to a place, I'm super thirsty, and there isn't like a glass water bottle, there isn't a coconut or some shit like that. So I'll just get a fucking plastic water bottle. It sucks, but it's fine if it's only once in a while. So we want to avoid any kind of like plastic container for drinks, especially because when the drink swishes around, it's getting little tiny pieces of microplastic. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other things that means that we ingest plastic as well. Plastic chopping boards are a particularly bad one. And so if you cook at home, or if your mother does, there'll be like a plastic, like colorful chopping board, like a green one or a white one. And when you're chopping things on that, like chicken or vegetables with the knife, you're getting the tiniest amount of microplastics getting stuck into the thing that you're cooking, and you're digesting them. It's probably one of the most significant parts of ingesting microplastics. So when you're cooking or your mom's cooking, go get a wooden chopping board. Unfortunately, you're also at risk of, when you order at like restaurants, that they're probably using plastic chopping boards as well. Like I've noticed sometimes when I'll be in a restaurant and I kind of go to the bathroom or something, I kind of look over into where the chefs are and I'll see like the bright green chopping board that they're using, and they just don't realize that that's like unhealthy for them to use. But yeah, so sometimes that sucks. And then even plastic containers for food. So the conventional meal prep container, like the little plastic Tupperware, that's not ideal. Now, If there's food which isn't hot and you put it in a plastic container, that's fine because you're not going to get much plastic seeping into the food if it's like cold or cool or, room temperature and it's not particularly swishing around. Like I remember reading a study where a steak that's wrapped in plastic, like a cling film, is way better for you than a bottle of water because the water swishes around that makes it worse. So if there's kind of movement rubbing against the plastic, that's worse. So if, for example, you've put like stuff in a Tupperware, that can be fine as long as it's not hot. If, for example, you're microwaving it and then the Tupperware gets hot, it's leaching out the microplastics. If you order food and they put it in like those box that has like a plastic lining, which most of them do, like I order food almost every day and it'll almost always come in like a paperish kind of cardboardish kind of material. But remember, if you ever get food in that kind of material, it's always going to be lined with plastic because the plastic will stop the heat and the sauce and whatever to seep through the paperish kind of material, right? If you imagine like a takeaway box from like a chicken shop or something, imagine like the foamy kind of material it's made out of. Why doesn't the grease and the sauce seep through? It's because there's like thin plastic lining that you don't see just yet. It's the same with like, like a carton of milk, like we've got some in the fridge. It's like a paper carton. Why does the milk not seep through? Because it would through paper, through cardboard, right? If you cut it open, you'll see that there's a plastic lining inside. So it just fucking sucks. It's like, it's very hard to avoid this stuff. If you want to go full level, basically you just won't order food from like anyone, and we'll talk about soon like the highest level you can go to. One quick disclaimer I'll give you though is right now I wouldn't recommend going full like health maxing mode for this stuff. I think you should know this research that we're talking about, and I think you should start to implement it, but I don't think you should go full hard mode because I did that last year in like November. It honestly made my life worse because it makes you like overthink. It makes you, like a 25-year-old, 26-year-old who's obsessed over fucking microplastics and air pollution and everything. And I remember I was here in Bali a year ago and I wasn't even having a good time because I was so stressed and worried about these things. But I would meet guys who kind of knew about them, but they wouldn't even like make it a big deal. They would just go and, enjoy themselves. They were in Bali, they were traveling and laughing. And what's interesting is I was so health conscious, but if you compared our health, theirs was actually better because they had a carefree mindset. So as we go through these ideas, just remember, you want to implement some things which are fairly easy to implement, but in a stress-free way. Eventually, when there's, like let's say you buy your dream home or something and you can set things up, then you can go ahead and go like, oh yeah, let's get this thing because it's not estrogenic, let's get this thing. But you're gonna have some shit, or you're gonna go to dinner with some friends or something, and like it's gonna be cut, like the food's gonna be cut with a plastic chopping board. It's just gonna happen sometimes, and stressing about it will make your health worse than the actual like fact of getting more microplastics in you. What I will say is, particularly when you want to have children, you want to go through a good few months, like 3 months or 4 months, where you go on that autistic health maxing level. So right now, this is what I would recommend as a young guy. Listen to all these ideas that I've got and choose the ones that feels kind of easy and stress-free to implement and forget everything else. Then in a couple of years' time, maybe you can recap like this video or, recap like the lessons here. And when you're about to have children, 3 months before, 6 months before, go hard mode and get rid of all of these estrogenics. Because the one brutal thing about plastics, by the way, is that if we ingest plastics as like adult men, it's bad for us. It's bad for testosterone, it's bad for fertility. But we can actually get rid of it by just having time away from new plastics because slowly our body kind of excretes it, especially if we sweat a lot. Unfortunately, though, the study that I found, which was fucking devastating, is that the level of plastics you have inside of you and your woman has inside of you, like when she conceives a baby, it sets in stone the problems for that baby for life, and it can't be reversed by just like, sweating and waiting. Basically, when we ingest plastics and estrogenics, within 3 months, we can get rid of it by living a healthy life, getting away from that shit and sweating a lot, which excels it. But if we conceive a baby with our woman, whilst we have recently got a lot of like microplastics, like even inside of our testicles, and our girl's been wearing like fragrances and whatever, our child will forever permanently have the fucked up effects of like lower testosterone, deformed penises, small penis, everything like that. It's fucked, right? And if you want to research that, particularly with children, research this doctor. Her name is Dr. Susanna Swan. I think she has a book called like Sperm Countdown or something, and it's fucking brutal. Some of her research is so brutal. Basically, if you have a child whilst you had a high amount of microplastics, that child will permanently have like fucked up hormones, permanently have like a smaller penis, deformed penis, everything. So when we are adults and we're like, we're traveling and whatever, it's fine because the poisoning will come and go, basically. Even if we have a day or a month where we drank from a lot of plastic water bottles, if a few months later we haven't really drank from more plastic water bottles, then the plastic inside of our system will start to go and go and go. That's fine. But it's a permanent curse to set up for your children to have, like, to conceive a baby when you've been doing this. So my recommendation is choose one or two of these things that we'll cover for now. And then when you're thinking about having children, go hard mode after that. So we've covered avoiding plastics. And the next thing, like I said, was the tap water. So just don't drink tap water at all. I live in Bali, so you don't actually drink the tap water in many countries because it's not safe. Turns out tap water is literally not safe in any country, including even Switzerland that has the cleanest tap water, because there's no country that filters for the birth control hormone that's inside of the water system. So don't drink tap water. You need to get what's called a reverse osmosis water filter if you want to keep drinking tap water. I don't have to think about this because I just don't drink from the tap. So I'm used to just drinking like coconuts, and we have like a big water fountain thing, but that's probably got like plastics touching it and shit. That's why I often have a couple of coats of coconut a day to kind of reduce the plastic intake. But if you live at home with your family, it's well worth buying a reverse osmosis water filter. Just go onto Amazon, search that, just choose one of them. It'll be a few $100, so you'll have to save up for it, but it's a very good investment because then you can you have a new tap in the sink. You turn the tap on and you've got water that's actually like clean, basically. That's well worth it. And then that won't have some weird fucked up hormone. So if you're living at home, like in your base, then get that. Eventually in the future, when you buy your home, get that. Up until then, when you're kind of traveling around like I am, I wouldn't suggest like fucking around with that kind of stuff. I would suggest doing what you can with glass bottles and with coconuts and those kinds of things. The third thing you can do to increase testosterone and get away from this bullshit is to not wear polyester clothing unless if it's necessary. So polyester clothing is basically plastic clothing. And if you wear that, especially when you're getting warm, again, the plastic will seep into your skin and then lower testosterone, lower fertility. Now, sometimes you'll have to wear the polyester plastic clothing. For example, if you do jiu-jitsu, often you'll wear a rash guard, which is like a plasticky kind of shirt. If you, for example, are going hiking, you'll often wear like a waterproof jacket. So that can work as well. Anything you wear which is like plasticky, like polyester, is not going to be good for you. But if it's not on your base layer, like if it's not touching your skin and if you're not hot and sweating, then it's not too bad. Like for example, I have no fear wearing like a waterproof jacket, which is like polyester, because when I'm wearing that on like a cold hike up a mountain, it's fine. You're not getting that much like plastic seeping through your skin. Why? Because you're wearing like shirts and jumpers underneath it anyway. So preferably you're always wearing cotton and wool clothing. But sometimes it's not ideal to do that. So there's a reason why all like martial arts clothing, like, the Muay Thai shorts and everything, they're all polyester. There's a good reason to have polyester clothing. It's because it holds the sweat way better than like cotton does. It makes it better to like work out in, but you've just got to be careful not it's seeping into your skin. So what I would do is either wear cotton as much as possible, like I'm wearing right now, like this vest. Or if you need to wear, for example, some like polyester gym clothes, like some gym shorts, make sure you're wearing a cotton pair of boxers underneath and like underwear. So that way, most of the short isn't actually touching your skin because 90% of it is touching the cotton boxers. So that's way, way better if you absolutely need to. And maybe you want to wear like a shirt, like a cotton shirt, underneath some plasticky bullshit that you're wearing instead. Another thing you can do to avoid the estrogenics is to avoid those fragrances and deodorants. And so what I do is I actually put on, I think I put it here, I put on natural deodorant. So this is what like natural deodorant often looks like. It's like a little stick and it's like 100% natural. It's made with coconut oil, beeswax, oils, arrowroot, It's made with like natural ingredients, like from the planet, and there's like 4 ingredients, and it's like a roll-on stick. That is way better for you than sprays. Sprays like fucking Lynx and then cologne and fragrances, they are particularly bad for you. When I asked one of the leading doctors in this space what was some of the best ways we could avoid estrogenics, he said, don't have any fragrances on, no deodorant, no cologne, everything. That's very, very bad for you, for your skin, for your estrogenics and everything, and your fertility. Now, I think if it's a very special occasion, I would understand. Maybe not just like a date, but like a very special day, you're going to a party, or maybe even a date, you want to put on some like fucking cologne or something. Okay, fine. But don't put that on for like the gym or for a normal day, for work, whatever. Just put on a lot of like this natural deodorant and that's it. And just have your natural fucking smell. Like you don't smell bad when you wear this stuff. I actually think you smell a lot better than like putting on weird fake chemicals that are inside most deodorants. And it's way better for you as well. The next thing is not keeping your phone in your pocket. And I actually have a story about this. So this was about a year ago. Me and my ex-girlfriend, we were talking about having children. And so I had gotten a sperm test because I was interested to see. I'm about to open the sperm test now because 3 months ago, I took another one, which literally said I was infertile. So I had a sperm test that literally said I had an abnormal sperm and I was basically infertile. You have to wait about 3 months to get a new one. And so in those 3 months, all I did was just 2 things. I didn't keep my phone in my pockets, and I avoided estrogenics. Mostly, I just didn't drink tap water, and I avoided like plastics as well. I'm opening up the newest results right now, and the sperm count has went up dramatically, like loads. So I end up going on the call with the doctor, and she's like so impressed. She can't believe that in 3 months it went from like below the range, and the range is really fucked up, kind of like the testosterone range. It's like it's very low. So I was already the low range, and now I was like above it basically, and she was surprised. And she was kind of impressed as well. And we ended up talking about what I did. And when I told her about the phone and about tap water and stuff, I was actually surprised because she actually took it well. I thought she was going to think that I was like some psychopath or whatever. But she actually said like, yeah, we've heard that before. It's not common knowledge, but people in the space are starting to hear this. Like keeping your phone in your balls decreases your sperm count. It literally kills your sperm. And anything that affects your sperm often affects your testosterone as well. So it probably decreases testosterone keeping your phone in your pocket. So where do I keep my phone? Everyone always asks me. Nowhere. I literally just fucking hold it in my fingers. Literally, if you ever see me in public, I guarantee you'll see me with my phone in my hand just like this. Guarantee. If, for example, it's an absolute like requirement, I need my hands for something, I might put it in my pocket with like the airplane mode on. But other than that, if you ever see me walking around somewhere, I guarantee you'll see me with my phone in my hand. I don't put it next to my balls. It's probably still not healthy even having it in your hand, honestly, because it's just fucked with the radiation and whatever. But I'll never put it in my pocket again. So just bear that in mind. Take your phone out of your pocket, keep it out of there as well. The final way that I think we can increase our testosterone is to live what I would call the high testosterone lifestyle. So getting into martial arts, signing up for your first fight does wonders because it gives you a lot of direction. It's a culture that will toughen you up. It's a masculine environment where there's like a dominance hierarchy where you have to come in with your shoulders back and your chest high. You'll sometimes take shit from someone else and you've got to like be able to bite back at them. And it's a physical struggle instead of a psychological one. So think to yourself, what could be your high T lifestyle? It doesn't have to be martial arts, but it should be something where you're outside next to other guys, you're competing with them, maybe you're getting sunlight and exercise. There's some kind of mindset you have of wanting to become a winner in that area. Most guys just don't have this, and then they complain of low testosterone. Because the gym, by the way, doesn't count. Just going to the gym, lifting some weights, doesn't really count because it's not very much a competitive thing. If you're signing up to a bodybuilding or a weightlifting competition, okay, fair enough, that counts. But most guys who go to the gym are just more like casual people. You could go kind of seriously, but you're still casual. You're not like a pro because you don't fucking compete. So you want to become like a pro at something in the physical world. It can even be fucking construction, just something that takes you out into like a masculine environment where you're out in the sun all day. So here's an action step for you. Think of one physical struggle that you could have that will keep you busy so that you're not overthinking like the psychological struggle. It could be a competition in a sport. It could be like a kickboxing or an MMA fight. It could be some adventurous thing like walking around your country for the next 6 months. Some crazy shit like that is going to be so good for you, particularly if it's mixed with that kind of social status, dominance, hierarchy kind of environment. So the military, martial arts gyms, serious like bodybuilding gyms, sports teams, rugby, those kinds of things are so important. Don't just be like a self-improvement artist who just goes to the gym 4 to 6 times a week and then is still basically a nerd who just spends all day in his bedroom. Like, that's not the life that you ever envisioned. There's a life which is so much better than that. And most guys, when they get onto self-improvement, all they do is just go to the gym, and then the rest of the day is just watching videos and doing a bullshit, like little, like an hour or two of work per day. It's not good enough. We need more than that. The other action step I would suggest you do immediately, just because it's so easy, never put your phone in your pocket again. The other things like, avoiding tap water and stuff, there's a bit of friction, but never putting your phone in your pocket is so easy. Be careful, because your phone can get stolen. If you live in like London or some shit, it can happen. But honestly, I'd rather my phone get stolen than losing testosterone and sperm personally. If you need to, just put it in your fucking backpack, put in like some armband like runners have or something like that. And finally, I would suggest you go ahead and take one lifestyle kind of environmental change. So maybe it's the reverse osmosis filter. Maybe it's you just not drinking from the plastic water bottles. Maybe it's you getting some natural deodorant on Amazon right now. Go ahead and take some action on this, because any improvement you get to your testosterone is just going to help you for the most important things in life. Goodbye.